Hi everybody, welcome to Live Blogger. In this tutorial series, we are creating this design using Tailwind CSS. Now in the previous video, I showed you how to set up a Tailwind CSS project. So if you haven't watched that, I will leave the link in the description of this video. Now in this video, we will start with the design of this page right here using Tailwind CSS. So let's get started. Alright, this is our project, and here we can see we have this h1 and we have this Tailwind classes over here. So if you go to our browser, this is how it looks right now. So let's remove this heading and let's start with the design. So the first thing we will do is we'll create a division as the container, and let's create a division, and we need to add Tailwind classes inside that. But before that, let's go ahead and add all the content of the HTML. Now we also need to add this image. So in this images folder, we have this image. So what we will do is we'll just drag this images folder inside the public folder so that we can access it easily. Right now in this division, we need to have the image. So for the image, let's create a division, and in the division we will have the img, and for the src, let's type images/webdev.png, which is the image that we have over here. And the next thing we need to have is this heading right here. So let's go outside this division and let's create an h1, and here we'll just type webdev basics, and after the heading we need to have this paragraph. So let's copy this text from here and let's create a paragraph, and let's paste the text over here. And after the paragraph we need to have these two buttons. So for that, let's create a division, and in the division we will have a button, and for the button we will have this text watch demo, and we need to have one more button. So let's create another button over here, and here we'll just tap enroll now. And if you go back to our browser, this is how it looks right now. We have all the elements displayed over here. Now let's style it using Tailwind CSS. Now for using Tailwind CSS, you have to use the classes inside the Tailwind framework. So here you can search for any CSS property you need. So for example, if I just type background, here we can see all the CSS properties are displayed over here. And if I click on any of these, we have the classes that are used in Tailwind CSS. So you can always go ahead and search for the properties over here. So let's start with the design. First of all, let's style this container division. So I just type class. And the first thing we will do is we will set a width of 700 pixels. So let's type W hyphen. Now since we need to type an exact pixel count, you have to use square brackets. And here you can add any value. So I'll just type 700 pixels. And now we can see we have a width of 700 pixels. Right now let's change the background color. So let's type BG hyphen. And here we can see all these options provided by Tailwind CSS. So we will use a color called teal 300, and this is how it looks. Right now the next thing we will do is we will set the margin left and margin right to auto so that it is in the center. So for that you can just type MX for margin left and margin right, and we'll set it to auto, and now it is in the center. Let's also add margin top and margin bottom. So for that you need to type MY, and let's set it to 8. Right now let's set a padding. So for that you can just type P, and let's set the padding to 10. And we also need to have rounded corners. So for that you have to type rounded hyphen, and you can use these values. I'll just use XL. And now we can see we have rounded corners. We'll also add a box shadow. So for that you can just type shadow hyphen, and you can use any of these shadows. I'll just use shadow XL. Right now the next thing we will do is we will add the font which we used over here in this design. So this font is called Montserrat. Now by default the Tailwind CSS framework doesn't have the font. So here if I just type font, we can see we have font sans, font serif, and font mono. Now we need to add the Montserrat font over here. So for that, let's first of all get the link of the font and add it to the head of our HTML. So let's go to Google Fonts. So here I'm in fonts.google.com. So let's search for Montserrat. Now let's click on the font. And we need to get two styles of this font. We need to get the bold version and the regular version. So let's scroll down and let's select regular 400, and let's scroll down, and let's also select extra bold 800. And now let's click on this button called view selected families, and let's copy this link, and we need to add it inside the HTML. So let's paste it over here. Right now, to add this font inside the Tailwind CSS framework, we need to make some changes inside the Tailwind config file. So here we need to extend this theme right here. So here inside extend, you have to type font family, and we need to add an object, and here you have to type the name of the font. So you can type any name you want. I'll just type Montserrat, and here you have to add the value. So we have to type square brackets, and inside you have to type Montserrat and sans serif. Right now, let's go back to our HTML file, and now here if I just type font hyphen, we have this new font called font Montserrat. So let's select that, and now let's go back to our design. So now we can see the font has changed to Montserrat. So if I just take a look at the font, here we can see it says Montserrat. Now the next thing we will do is style this image. Now we need to set this image relative to this container division right here. So for the container division, we have to set the position to relative. So let's go back to our HTML, and here you have to type relative. And now for the image division, we have to type absolute. Now this image is positioned relative to this container division. We'll also set the left position to a negative value. So here we can see the image is outside this container division. Now for adding a negative value, you have to type hyphen left, and then you have to type the value. So here I'll just type 8, and now we can see that the image is outside this container division. And now let's set the height of this division to the same as the container. So we need to type h hyphen full, and now it will set the height of this division to 100% the height of the container. And let's also set the top position to 0. And now let's set the width of this division. So let's set the width to 250 pixels. So I'll just add it inside square brackets, and let's type 250 pixels. Now the next thing we need to do is we need to bring this image to the center of this division. So for that, let's set the display to flex. You can just type flex over here for that. And we need to set the align items to the center. So you can just type items center. And now we can see that the image is at the center of this container division. Now for the image, we also need to have rounded corners and also a drop shadow. So let's go to the image, and let's add some classes over here. Let's type rounded, and let's set it to rounded XL, and we'll also add a shadow, and let's set the shadow to XL, or let's try LG. And now we can see we have the shadow and the rounded corners. Right now the next thing we will do is we will add some padding left to this content, because right now the image is covering some of the content. So let's go to the container division, and let's set a padding left. So we have to type PL, and let's set it to 60. Right now we can see all the content is displayed over here. Now let's style this heading. So let's go back, and let's add some classes. Let's type class. First of all, we have to set the font size. So let's type text hyphen, and you have different options for that. Let's just select 4XL, and now we can see we have the correct font size. Let's also set the font to bold. So you can just type font hyphen, and I'll just select black from here. And let's also change the color of the font. So let's type text, and we'll set the color to slate 900. And I think that's it with the heading. Now let's style this paragraph. So let's add some classes over here for the paragraph. Let's add a margin top. So let's type empty hyphen, and let's set it to 4. And we'll also add some line height for this paragraph. So for that, you have to type leading, and you can use any of these values. I'll just use this value right here, loose. And now we can see we have the correct line height. Right now the last thing we need to do is style these buttons. So for the buttons, we have this container division, and we'll set the display to flex for this. So let's type class flex, and we'll have a gap of 5. And now here we can see we have this gap between these two buttons, and we'll also add some margin top. So let's type empty 4. Right now let's style these buttons. So for the first button, let's add a class. And first of all, let's set the background color to slate 900. So let's type bg-slate-900. And let's set the color of the text to white. So you can just type text white. Right now let's add some padding. So let's type px for padding left and padding right. And let's set it to 8. And py for padding top and padding bottom. And let's set it to 2. And let's set the font weight to black. So let's type font black. Now when we hover over this, we need to increase the scale a little bit. So here we can see the scale of the button increases. So let's do that. For that, you have to type hover colon and let's type scale, and let's set the scale to 105. And now if you hover over this, the scale changes. We need to have smooth transition. So for that, let's type ease out. You can use any of these easing values. And we'll also add a duration, and let's set the duration to 500. Right now let's go back to our browser, and now if you hover over this, we have the hover effect, and the transition is also working alright. Now let's add the styles for this button right here. Now the styles for this button are almost the same as this button right here. So let's copy all of this from here, and let's paste it for this button. And we'll make some changes. First of all, let's set the text color to the dark color. So let's type text-slate. And for the background, we need to have white color. So let's type bg-white. And everything else is the same. So let's go back. And now we can see that the buttons are styled correctly. So that's basically how you can style this page right here using Tailwind CSS. Alright, so that's it for this video. If you have any doubts, you can ask in the comments below. And if you like this video, please click on the like button and subscribe to this channel to get the latest video updates. Thanks a lot for watching. Have a nice day.